$R0BBED, nigga. NAYIMED.
Welcome to my channel. My name is Nayim. I am your host, and today I got a haircut. But let's have a conversation about being in this game and trusting people based on nothing but pure ignorance. And not ignorance as in ridiculous, idiotic, moronic behaviors, but ignorance as in the literal sense of the word of not having any understanding and not being in the know. When you come into the rap game in particular, people are going to be pulling at you from every which way. Everybody's going to be telling you exactly what you need. Everybody's going to be telling you, oh, you should hire this. You know, we always have conversations about lawyers, but we never really talk about accountants. Everybody is trying to stick their hand in your pocket and take your money as a rapper. It don't matter whether it be a trash contract, literally robbing you, poor investments, scams. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're a rapper that has some success, people are going to be trying to take that money from you and run off on basically the plug. And you are the plug that they're going to run off on, right? Fat Joe has a very interesting history with accountants, being that so he's been around for about 30 years or a little bit over 30 years now. He has amassed a success in the run and the longevity that most rappers will never be able to see. And he did it from the ground up, right? 20 years into his career, though, he started having problems with the accountant that he hired as his business manager. And his business manager was responsible for budget reports, audits, and paying his taxes. The problem is the accountant, the CPA that he hired on, was stealing his money, and not even, oh, I'm taking some off the top. They were stealing it, like just straight not paying the taxes. And that went on for about 2 years, right? He said he was wiring the money. He was paying like $40,000, $20,000, $50,000 to pay for, you know, whatever the taxes was for whatever his money is coming in. And in this arena, because it is an arena, because you're going to be down there fighting for your life against everybody. It doesn't matter how good you're fighting for your life. You know, if I have a cannon in my hand and I'm shooting you, you still fighting for your life, whether if I was throwing knives. So it's still a fight, right? In 2012, Fat Joe went to the car dealership to buy a new car, and that wasn't really uncommon, especially after he amassed so much. He already had the success with the little bit of success he had with Remy Ma, but he had Big Pun, which was his protege, and he owned all Big Pun's stuff. He owned everything. He was responsible for Big Pun even being able to get to that point because Joe was the person putting that work in. He had leaned back, which took him to a whole different level. Like we talk about over here all the time, you know, all it takes a lot of times is that one hit song that's going to push you over the moon, especially if you have a global hit song that you can go and eat off of forever, right? We all knew, especially back then, people rolled with very huge entourages. Fat Joe had one of the biggest entourages in rap music that you ever seen. Literally like 50, 100 people, right? He goes to the car dealership to buy him a car. The dealer comes back and say, hey, you ain't paid your mortgage and you ain't paid off these houses. You haven't paid for this stuff. And he was just shocked. Like, wait a minute, what you mean I didn't pay? Or whatever. But he was like, you serious? Like, no, it just had to be a mistake. He goes back and he does his own little digging, and he calls his accountant, and they're like, hey man, they saying that I haven't paid anything off. The accountant is like, oh, don't kill me, don't kill me. That's an exact quote. Don't kill me, don't kill me. This is the part where we got to interject, because when you got people that don't know you and they don't have your, and even if they do know you, they still might not have your best interest in mind. But when you call somebody about a problem and they get on the phone trying to insinuate that whatever your reputation is, you're going to do to them because they did something to you, as far as they might not have came up and slapped you or something like that, but they came and they stole something from you and they took something from you. So now they're trying to reverse. This happens so much. They try to reverse your reputation. Like, please don't kill me. Please don't kill me, because they know they're about to be found out. He knew, even though Joe didn't know what was going on at the time, and Joe didn't know what was going on in that moment, the fact that the accountant is like, don't kill me, don't kill me, Joe automatically had in his mind like, what? And that's when Joe was like, I didn't threaten you. What are you talking about? Joe goes to his other accountant, and his other accountant does an investigation on the business manager. And it comes to find out that I have an exact figure right here. Joe hadn't paid taxes in 2 years and owed $718,038 to the IRS. This man was taking the money, doing whatever he wanted to do with it. Joe came into the game, and you get this success, and you get this money, you get all this stuff, and it's like, it's more stuff that happened after this. But you get all this stuff, and you acquire all these fortunes, and people think, oh, that I can just skim off the top. I can just take a little bit off the top. Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to see. Nobody's going to recognize that I took XYZ from you or whatever. And, that's never really the case. It's always going to be found out, especially if you're dealing with paperwork. So after the backup accountant found out that, hey, you haven't paid taxes in 2 years, you are in trouble. He called the IRS himself to try to straighten it out. Next day, they show up at his house. He, get his stuff together. He wasn't at the house, but he had his stuff together paperwork-wise so that he can say, look, I'm not trying to steal nothing. I can show you all my transfers and whatever. But this is where that ignorance thing kicks back in, because if you've ever had to go to court, or you've ever been in any trouble with the law, or even if it's something as simple as a speeding ticket or a parking ticket, what's the first rule? And everybody know the first rule. Ignorance is no excuse of the law, or for the law, whatever, however that goes. Ignorance is not an excuse for breaking the law. He went to court and everything, because we ain't got to drag it all out, because you know how the story ends. If you don't, he had to go to court, and he was going to have to do 2 years. But so many people showed up and was like, look how he's just such a great man. It was a whatever. And the judge was like, I still got to give you this time. And he only did 4 months. He only got the 4 months. He got the 2 years knocked down to 4 months, plus a year of probation, plus $1 million in fines, plus like $250,000 other dollars. So, this is easily turned into, and he had to pay that money back to the IRS, plus the money that was stolen from his accountant. So the judge told him, like, I got to give you this time. I got to do something, even though you have the proof that you did everything right and this person stole from you. And, they stole the money and hit the road, so he couldn't even find them. Joe found himself, in prison for something that he didn't have no control over because of his personal ignorance. Again, not ridiculous behavior or reckless spending or stuff like that, but just not being in the know, because you come in here and the first thing people tell you to get is go get you a lawyer and give them 5%, even though you don't know this lawyer and they're not going to be doing nothing but going over paperwork. I already told y'all about the thing with the lawyers. Just go hire you a lawyer. Just go get you a lawyer for like $800 an hour every time you have something coming up, if you coming up or whatever. But when you get to that point where touring is its own LLC, merch is its own LLC, all these things are their own business entities now, it's a little different of a situation. He does his time. He comes back and he does a reevaluation of, or I like to call it a relationship inventory of the people in his life, because he just had to not only pay that money back, but he basically had to pay his taxes twice, pay the lawyers, pay the courts. It's a whole lot of fees and things and penalties that have racked up. So you're basically out of $3 million because somebody decided to rob you. He does a relationship inventory. What is this on my face? He does a relationship inventory on his life. He dropped the entourage, because now he's like, people are ungrateful. Anybody who owed him any money in the street, he went and got it. They said he got like $200,000 to $300,000 from shaking people upside down in the street, like going and collecting any money that anybody had owed him. He got people out of here. He stopped buying people cars. He stopped taking care of people. He dropped everybody. And he basically he went on a world tour all overseas in Poland and over there in Europe and all these other places, so his family wouldn't have to feel the pain of him being robbed by an accountant. After all that, and then, he ended up in this situation that's still in litigation right now, where he had another accountant that was basically, he's just robbing everybody in the industry, rappers, ball players, baseball players, you know, they getting just straight robbed. And he learned this lesson, but they're in litigation now about, and those people was actually taking money out of his account and opening up credit cards in his wife's name and all this other stuff. You know, this is a very, very, very good tale of not trust, having no trust. There is no trust here. We here to do work. Everybody must be watched. Everything must be accounted for. And this is why the education part, you know, it can be boring. It can be, oh, I don't want to do this, all this stuff. But it's like, would you rather be bored for a day or robbed every day of your career and getting mad like Soulja Boy because people are coming up and being like, oh, $250 in food stamps or dinner with Soulja Boy, being humiliated? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's boring. It's not what you want to hear. It's not what you want to do. But this could literally save your career. $3 million is not no little bitty thing, especially 20 years, 30 years into your career. Especially having somebody who can produce hits and keep being relevant and having other streams of income and revenue. Like, you shouldn't have to shoulder that to take care of your family. You shouldn't have to shoulder that so your family don't feel the pain because you didn't do your due diligence. And that's what they told him in court. You're responsible because it's your money. We sorry, yeah, you didn't do nothing wrong, but you're the head of household, so it's your responsibility. And when you in this game, you got to realize that's how everybody's going to look at you. Everybody's going to look at you and feel like you are number one, you are head honcho, you're responsible. It doesn't matter if you don't know about accounting. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything about touring. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything about masters. People are going to look at you and be like, oh, you don't own your master recordings? Okay. You don't own your master recordings because you don't want to own them, because if you care so much about your career, you care so much about your music, and you care so much about being a boss, you would have did your due diligence. Even if you came in the game not knowing anything, you're going to be held accountable for everything you do. Point blank, period. Whether you knew you did it or you didn't know you did it. And that's just how it was. I thought this was a very good, I mean, this is real life. I was going to say anecdotal, but it's not really anecdotal. This is real life. Like, ignorance cost him millions and put him in prison, away from his family and away from his work. Luckily, he had a career to fall back on, and he ain't going nowhere, because by the time Lean Back came out, he was already damn near a legend. That is just like a legend getting more legendary, you know, especially if you from where we from, where we already knew about Joe. Joe had been around forever. So it's like, that's just how I go, man. You ain't no trust here. Everybody has to be watched. You need to, if there's a job to be done, you need to know at least the basis of how to do that job in your situation. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself like Fat Joe, shelling out millions, getting robbed, getting played, people paying for college tuitions with your money, just straight taking it out your account, moving it over there, and it ain't going to be nothing you can do. But hope you don't get tied up in court longer than your career lasts. So, thank you for tuning in. My name is Nayim. I will holler at you.
NAYIMEDWARD $, nigga. NAYIMED.